Hello everyone. So today I'd like to cover my speculations on reincarnation and a lot of other things that connect to it. Now these are speculations. These are not beliefs that every Hindu or most Hindus will hold. It's hard to find anything like that for Hinduism. I am Hindu, but I'm going to be drawing a lot from Hinduism because I am Hindu and it has formed a lot of my beliefs on it and me trying to figure this out for myself. And it is going to be speculation. So my beliefs are evolving. My spiritual beliefs and practice is evolving and always is. These are not concrete nor held forever beliefs or speculations or understandings. I'd like to throw that out there right off the bat before we dive in. So let's go ahead and talk about this. So starting off with this speculation. When this universe was forming, after the Big Bang, I am a proponent of the Big Bang. I also believe in evolution. We'll get to that and how that works with reincarnation. So everything started out as after the Big Bang, just as matter. Life did not exist at the beginning of the Big Bang. So how did that happen? How do souls enter into this universe? So it started out with us being souls of material things, like carbon, and then rocks, and a variety of other base chemicals that eventually formed things that formed everything. Now, eventually, life formed once the consciousness of all the material had gone through that and experienced enough difference. As far as if a soul, where one soul began and ended, if like a soul inhabited a section of rock, what have you. That's still a little wishy-washy. It's even wishy-washy with a lot of sources and Hindu sources on reincarnation and Buddhist sources as well. So after a long time, life began to form. Life started out, very small, bacteria. Souls experienced that for a long time, but some of the souls still remained material, rocks, the earth, for example. It was, before life was on it, it was just a bunch of rock, kind of. So then, bacteria started forming. The souls kind of became more evolved as it stopped being material originally. And then eventually worked our way all the way to where we are now. So some souls are still material. They haven't worked their way past that. Some souls are still bacteria. Some souls are animals. They haven't worked their way to human level. Some of the first ones to leave this universe and not be reincarnated in it over and over again, they were some of the first life on Earth. And now, with karma, if you build up a lot of bad karma, you might go back to like rock state or innate material states, or back to plants or animal. But it's a little bit more rare than people think. A lot of the time, it just takes the progress of a soul, and soul is related to consciousness. It takes the progress of a soul a long time to get to human level. So it's not all people being punished that are still rocks or plants or animals. It's just some souls take longer to get to this level. Just like I imagine when I was an animal, all those millions of times I was an animal, and the billions of years of Earth's history, well, animals weren't around that long, but you get the idea. Animals for millions and millions of years, there were souls that were in kind of like human form that have moved on from this material dimension onto higher dimensions. Now, dimension, in my understanding, is kind of a group, kind of a material plane of universes. So there's a bunch of universes kind of on the same level. Side by side is not the right way to view it, but they're all kind of on the same level. So there's a bunch of universes that are like ours, a combination of the various things that make life as we understand it. And in this one universe, there's billions and billions, at least, of intelligent life forms, and even more that are not intelligent. And the reason our planet is so kind of isolated is because this world is kind of geared to particular kinds of souls, and we're kind of thinking and growing as a group of souls, kind of isolated. I think that most planets that are like ours, which is Rajasic, are kind of isolated. So what Rajasic means. Sattva in Hinduism is purity, detachment, a lack of like anger, a lack of aggression, a high degree of intellect and compassion. That's kind of sattva. Rajas is kind of in between that and tamas. So Rajas is kind of going back and forth between tamas and sattva. It has a combination of the two, but mainly restlessness. That restlessness belies going back between the two of sattva and tamas, but it's a more chaotic state where you're learning through activity, very active. These activities might bear good fruit or bad fruit depending on what you do in your life. Tamas is darkness, torpor, lack of activity, lack of development. A lot of people get stuck in tamas, and tamas you would think is inherently evil in the spectrum, and sattva good. So when I said earlier that compassion is allied with kind of sattva, that's partially true, but it's not. It's not the good and evil spectrum that you have in other belief systems. But in Hinduism, tamas is kind of torpor, inactivity, or sticking on to held beliefs and not developing, or not using your human consciousness in the best ways possible, not being even as active to even use it incorrectly like Rajas is. This is a Rajasic world. It's not completely torpor, more activity, and there's purity, but it's not a world that's pervaded by purity. So these three kind of energies kind of make up everything. This makes it a Rajasic world. So in this world, and probably in this universe, time is also cyclical. What does that mean? How does that tie into evolution? And so think of evolution as something that operates right beside reincarnation. It serves the same function. It just does it in a more material sense rather than the kind of the source root that the soul has. So evolution is a thing. I do believe in it, and it the reason I think that time is cyclical for us, not just in the way that the planet's its climate cycle is cyclical, though we are harming it a lot right now. It's not just we are actually affecting the climate, but time being cyclical on this planet means that evolution goes up and down for humanity. Now, humanity is most likely taken very many forms, but I'm using humanity to describe the intelligent bipedal kind of thing that we are, and has been on this planet, though we've taken many different forms. But I'm using humanity to describe that, and I will be using it to describe that. So, in regards to humanity, we evolve in consciousness and technology. They don't necessarily always go hand in hand, but there is a correlation between the two. So we evolve in our consciousness. We start to work together. We go from like complete every man out for himself, or every family out for himself, then to every clan out for themselves. Then we form nations, and then our compassion starts to grow, and our human community starts to kind of create a bigger web, a closer bound web of understanding, collaboration, activity, and group effort in understanding our universe and ourselves. So we kind of start at the bottom where we're very survival, fear-based instinct, aggression, more culture, more based on kind of sexual reproduction takes like a huge hold. Similar to the way that the Greeks were really advanced, but like sex was just like a very big part of their minds. That was the nature of their culture at the time, but I'm not going to get into that. Greece civilizations also have cycles like this, but I'll get into that. So as humanity, it goes up and becomes more self-aware of the universe and that universe within, subjective universe, and the soul and what it is. The cycle goes up, and then eventually we go through a phase where we're using a bunch of technology, and it's kind of correlating with our spiritual and even kind of like evolutionary development physically. For a while, that kind of comes on the same track, and then as we get to the top, we stop using. So we get to Satya Yuga, which is at the top. we're kind of in Dwapara Yuga right now, but I'm kind of one of those people that think there's a bunch of tiny yugas and the big yugas. I think that ultimately we're in Kali Yuga, which is 200 million years long. Anyway, so we're going to the top, and we start being able to figure out how to use our voice, to use the natural energies that we have in our bodies, and draw upon transdimensional sources to actually supplement technology. And technology goes down, and we start to reach the top, and we stop needing to even necessarily record things. This may seem very convenient because of the lack of recorded things for a while. But as we get to the top, we start relying upon our memory more. Transmitted knowledge is not as easily forgotten. We start collaborating more. We stop killing each other as much. And as we get to the top of Satya Yuga, the very pinnacle, we're really not killing each other on this planet at all. We're in cooperation with the animals and plants on this planet rather than being kind of dominating over them and just using them to our own advantage like we still are right now. And a lot of souls in Satya Yuga kind of escape this dimension in this world. Souls are often bound by kind of choice, kind of orientation to a particular planet, but a lot of souls in Satya Yuga, and there's been many Satya Yugas on this planet, leave this dimension. They kind of graduate, if you will. Some go to the hells and the astral plane, then come back here. Heavens, places of enjoyment, not necessarily a progress place, but you kind of enjoy off your good karma there. The hells, you kind of burn off bad karma. And hells and heavens and these places, they all kind of exist in the astral realm. But most of the astral realm is basically like kind of a dimension, a layer of universes bigger than the material realms, kind of. It's hard to say like size this way, but bigger. And most of the astral realms are for people that have graduated from the material, kind of like school. So and then why does the cycle go back down? Why do we start becoming more and more back through the cycle the same way we went up? We start going through them in reverse, becoming more and more hostile, becoming more and more dominating of our planet, becoming more and more clan-based, or just my family against somebody else's family, or my nation against somebody else's nation. It's to actually give souls that haven't really gone from plant or animal another chance. Because as the cycles are going down, it's easier to reincarnate as a human. In Satya Yuga, it's kind of hard to get to that level from going from plant or animal to that level. So as the cycles go down, it's easier and easier to actually be reincarnated as a human, because it's honestly not that much. It's less great. It's the divide between animal instinct and, using our humanity or fullest potential. What you need to get there is smaller and smaller, and it's easier and easier for souls to reincarnate as human. So when you get to the bottom, a lot of souls have escaped this dimension, and then as you start going towards the bottom, more and more souls are being reincarnated as humans. And when you get to the very bottom, it becomes a lot easier for plants and animals to reincarnate as humans. And it's not so much like a new batch of souls, but it kind of is sometimes. And new souls are kind of given new opportunities to be reborn as human again and again and again throughout these thousands to tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands to millions of years, to figure everything out. And then by the time it gets to Satya Yuga again, then escape this dimension. So as far as karma goes, we usually think that, if somebody has really good karma, then they might be born rich. They might be born with a lot of stuff. They might be born in a very comfortable life. So a lot of the time, karma correlates to that, but not always. So when your soul is trying to purchase, I'm going to use the word purchase, even though it's not quite right, it's close enough for what I'm talking about. Your soul gains enough good karma. It uses the karma that it had from its previous life, plant or animal or human. Human, it's much easier to interact with karma. It's hard to interact with karma as a plant or animal because you're more base instinct. But so your soul uses the karma that it has to basically buy a rebirth that comfort could be a part of it, and often is, but the main purpose is to buy a rebirth that'll give you the best opportunity to work through the problems that your soul's still trying to work through. So whatever troubles that you have in your life, you might think that you had bad karma to get to a crappy place, but it might just be your soul trying to get you to understand lessons that it hasn't understood in all the various forms through yet. So the soul is kind of a beyond this current personality that is Hunter. It's been many things. It's been many animals and plants and many human beings. I'm born as this person in the situation that I am to figure out, because it gives me the best opportunity to figure out the things that I still haven't figured out yet. Or, and also comes in, the ways in which I'm hurt are often ways that I've hurt others in past lives. Now, this may seem very, very retribution based, but it's not quite like a God is like making that happen. It's your soul naturally trying to get all its various lives to learn the lessons that it needs to, so that it can be not necessarily purified, because it doesn't start off bad, but vibrating to the highest degree that it can escape this dimension. So if somebody is born very rich, it's not necessarily because they have a bunch of good karma. It might even be a little bit of because of bad karma, because you might be in a position where you don't actually have to solve anything or work things out for yourself, and everything is given to you. And if you don't use your humanity, your consciousness, to help others or to try to figure everything out for yourself, then you accumulate bad karma because you're not getting the lesson. So that's a little quirk of karma a lot of people don't know. Once again, I don't know any of this. These are just my best guesses based on what I've learned, based on my meditations and realization. My best guesses. This is all my best guesses. So civilizations are also kind of like mini cycles. So civilizations form, and we see civilizations rise and fall. So there's big yugas, big Satya yugas, big Dwapara yugas, big Kali yugas. And then there's, of course, smaller segments where they all kind of go through those mini transitions. And then the smaller segments, you could say, and more sociologically speaking, is civilizations. They'll go through these advances, serve their purpose. Once a civilization no longer serves its purpose for the souls in it, like the United States, for instance, or ancient Rome, when a civilization no longer is providing providing the souls in it, or that are gravitating towards it, its function, it starts to decline when souls aren't no longer progressing, and then civilizations naturally fall. Now, a lot of civilizations fall because of the seemingly natural disasters or droughts or terrible years of harvest. All those things are also true at the same time, but they all kind of happen. They seem to happen cyclically all by themselves, but they're also connected to the civilization and it's running its course. And everything seems to line up very well. And it seems so macro that, the civilization did these things to themselves, or these natural disasters did these things to them. We're just beyond karma, or beyond the survivability karmically, or providing for the souls of a nation, but they're all intertwined. So my speculations on karma is that some of my more out there views is that we've been many things. When I say Neanderthals or other things like that, we've been those things too. I kind of group them with the sentience that I apply to humanity when I'm talking about humanity, but we've taken a lot of different forms. This current one is the most recent one, but it's not the one that we're going to have forever, and we're going to evolve physically for a long time, millions of years, and then we'll start to devolve again. And the cycle will kind of continue to provide everything a platform for everyone figuring out what existence is, who they are, and really everybody's consciousness is connected, and we're all working on the same problem together. We're just calling it different things, and we're fighting over and having conflicts over temporary nations and the perspective through which we see the truth. And we won't do that forever, and we're actually ascending. It just may take a while for us to actually get to Satya Yuga. It may take tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands, but more likely millions of years to get to Satya Yuga, because in the grander scope of things, millions of years. In our tiny little Satya Yuga that we're working towards, We might get there sooner, hundreds of years. Anyway, these have been my speculations on reincarnation. I hope they have been interesting. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, shoot them down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. Like this video if you like this, if you found any of this interesting. And feel free to become a patron on Patreon at www.patreon.com/darkrealist, capital D, capital R. I'd love to have more patrons, and I'd love to also collaborate with anybody who wants to collaborate. Thank you very much for watching. Keep an eye on yourself. Figure yourself out. Figure out why you have these problems and what you're supposed to learn. And most importantly, for this second, have a wonderful day.